welcome to Love Healing, the podcast. This episode talks about Kundalini awakening process, otherwise known as K.A.P, K-A-P. So let's talk a little bit about that. And what is K.A.P? K.A.P is an energy transmission modality. K.A.P is a direct energy transmission that activates the Kundalini activation process. Spontaneous movements can and do arise. Some consider it a cathartic experience or something that gives them deep insights or realizations. But these are just some of the side effects that can and do happen. A profound rewiring of the brain structure and central nervous system happens with continued exposure. Every symptom or sign of Kundalini awakening, from the earliest signs to the latter end manifestations, are seen regularly in participants. So when I hear that, I'm like, what? I'm still confused. What does that mean? Right? Because when you think of Kundalini, some people, or sometimes, especially if you're in the yoga world, the first thing you're going to think of is Kundalini yoga. Right? And what even is that? What does that look like? Maybe we need to do an episode about it. But this isn't even yoga. Right? It's sacred energy. Kundalini is the raw life force or energy, sometimes referred to as the sleeping goddess or serpent power, that lives within all of us, coiled around root chakra. Once risen or awakened, it moves up your spine, eventually through your crown chakra. It's what cleans out your pipes so the water can run clear, says Sigrid. She is a K.A.P practitioner. So when we talk about chakras, well, okay, what even is that? So let's just, for the sake of this show in this moment, talk about the 7 major energy centers that most of the Western world focuses on when we talk about these power centers or power balls or energy centers that are aligned with the body, with the spine, or with particular parts of the body. So root chakra is down by your pelvis, right? Second chakra is going to be in between the belly button and the pelvic bone, pelvic floor. Third chakra is around the belly button. It's called solar plexus. Fourth chakra is the heart chakra. Fifth is your throat. Sixth is your third eye, which would be between your eyebrows. And 7th is the crown, so top of the head, going up and connecting to your source, right, of the creation energy. So those are the chakras. And so when we're talking about the Kundalini energy, or that life force, it literally starts to swirl right at the pelvic floor or base of the spine, depending on, which school of thought you come from. And it doesn't make one wrong and the other right, but let's say that's at the bottom. Okay, that energy starts swirling there and then goes up, 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 and out through the crown. So it releases some stagnant energy. It can awaken some creativity. It can definitely tap into personal power and things that you need to say to people, or opening your heart for love. I am learning all about the many, many, many chakras that are around and have been around for millennia. But when we focus on the 7, just kind of knowing a little bit about each without getting trapped in the matrix, right? But collapsing them all to the heart, because that's where the big energy is, the biggest love, the highest frequency. Right? The highest healing frequency, the highest awe frequency, the highest everything, love. Okay? Coming to that 4th is amazing. But we have to know what's below that, what's above that. Because as below, so is above, right? And vice versa. Kundalini yoga has seen a spike in popularity in the past couple of years. Through breath work, mudras, and chants, many have found access to their Kundalini through repetitive practice on the mat. But there's also a more straightforward way to channel it, through transmission to expand consciousness. So now we're going into this Kundalini activation process, or K.A.P, as a modality. So who created K.A.P? Venant Wong is the founder of K.A.P. He is a transmission vehicle. He transmits the raw life force of Kundalini. He also transmits his most native state of non-dual awareness. This, along with a lifetime of intense physical embodiment practices, brings together a unique transmission frequency that is a blend of raw Kundalini and deep consciousness that is overwhelmingly incarnated into the physical body. So I guess that is where you would start to have the spontaneous movements, or the releases of thoughts, energies, emotions, right? There could be laughter, there could be tears, there could be just a feeling of elation, lightness, things like that. Whatever's needing to come out. So it is this specific and unique blend of what traditionally has been considered different schools, systems, or lineages that makes K.A.P so intensely transformative and life-changing. Some of Venant's embodiment practices have included Taekwondo. He's a second-degree black belt, an instructor, worked and trained as a professional dancer for 7 years, 100% raw foodist for 12 years, and he was an apprentice to David Dita. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He was a sacred sexuality teacher and was a formal devotee of spiritual realizer Adi the Samurai. So that's the creator of K.A.P. And because it is so new, I wanted to find out, who is this person that came up with, and I'll use air quotes because I keep seeing so many things that are very similar in nature or in foundation or in thought, but then they present themselves differently based on who's the vehicle that brings it forth in that time and gets that out to the people, right? And there are several frequently asked questions on the K.A.P website, for which we will post it. And once we talk to Kimberly and get a little bit more insight, she may be able to answer all of yours. But some of the ones that I saw on the website, I actually had just and even talking to Kimberly prior to the show. Like, if I have no previous experience with energy, can I still attend? So the answer to that is yes. Experienced or not, the best way to show up for a K.A.P class is with a beginner's mind. If you are sensitive to this energy, it has nothing to do with experience. K.A.P is a transmission, not a practice. All you must do is to relax and have an open mind. It's about feeling and not knowing. Now, what happens after a class? This is also on their website. There is a whole range of things that may happen after K.A.P class, including the early to latter signs of Kundalini awakening. K.A.P is an energy lineage that holds a wide range of frequencies beneficial for higher states of consciousness and spiritual growth, in addition to the traditional Kundalini signs and symptoms. This process removes energetic blocks and connects you to your higher self or source. It will look different for each individual. So to me, I'm still kind of like, wait, what does that mean though? What will happen to me after? Or even like what happens to me in a K.A.P class? And is it happening to me? Is it happening through me? Is it happening around me? Like what is really going on? Right? Those are valid questions. And there's several more that you can totally check out on their website. And the last one that I will say or bring up is who should not do CAP. And because I want to have a deeper understanding as it relates to the Fitness Collective and participants there, I definitely want to know, like, if this is not an ideal class for someone, who would that person be? Because all modalities are not one size fits all. They're just not. But if you're open to it, is there another layer that we need to focus on? So who should not do CAP? CAP is not recommended for those prone to mania, delusion, or psychosis, as this process will expand your capacity to feel. You will have to be able to handle the emotional process in between sessions. If this is too difficult to handle on your own, we recommend you not continue with the sessions. Okay, that sounds like do-do-do-do-do-do-do, but also makes total sense, right? If you're susceptible to high highs and low lows, you may not want to open that can of worms, until you are able to process what feelings you're feeling on your own. And maybe another way to release them. Maybe there is some physical movement that needs to happen, but that's guided, like a yoga class. Or maybe there is some silent energy work that can be done, like a Reiki session. Who knows? So if you are unsure, certainly talking to a facilitator would be the first line of defense that I would suggest. And if you decide to go to any of Kimberly's classes, she is very personable and she will answer any questions that she can and that you have. And that is one of the things that I love about her. So let's get to know a little bit about Kimberly before she comes on. Kimberly James is a Kundalini activation process facilitator. She's a yoga instructor, sound healer, travel coach, vaginal steamer, Reiki practitioner, and an English professor. In addition to her certificates, she is studying to become an Ayurvedic health coach. Her studies of various healing modalities allow her to bring a holistic approach to healing. She is a strong believer in the importance of self-care, especially for members of the Black community. Outside of the modalities that are considered traditional healing practices, Kimberly has traveled to 81 countries and all 7 continents, which she believes is a form of therapy. Yes, including Antarctica, which she has visited 3 times. Kimberly mostly travels solo and on a budget for trips that can last up to 2 months. She grew up in Cleveland and has lived in Boston, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, and Los Angeles. Although she dreams of living abroad again and completing her goal of visiting 100 countries, her CAP, yoga, and meditation practices have greatly helped her travel within herself during quarantine, so she is content with sitting still while we get through this pandemic. That is a mouthful. And when she comes on, I can't wait to hear a little bit more about her story and a little bit more about her journey and how she found CAP. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Kimberly James. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
Welcome to Love Healing. I'm so excited that you are here to talk about, well, you, first of all, and then secondly, this phenomenon called CAP.
Yes.
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 So tell us, who is Kimberly?
Ooh, that's a hard one. In a nutshell, my name is Kimberly, and I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I have lived in Boston, Mexico City, Los Angeles, and I have just recently moved to Atlanta. I'm a lifelong teacher, so I've taught elementary school, high school, and now I'm a professor at community college, and I am a teacher of healing modalities, yoga. I do sound, vaginal steaming. I'm learning herbalism, Thai yoga body massage. I love to learn it all. And then of course there's K.A.P, which is what we're here to talk about today. So, yeah, I'm a student. Most of all, I'm a student. I love learning.
Same. I think I say that all the time. It's like, you can never know it all. So then you go on this search or this thing, and that's how this platform was even born. It's like, I've done all kinds of yoga, all kinds of energy work, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe people should know these things exist.
Yes. Oh, I didn't even mention Ayurveda. I'm studying Ayurveda because I forget all the things I'm studying. Yeah, and it just leads to one thing leads to another. You look into yoga, and then you're like, oh, but then there's yin yoga, and then there's yoga nidra, and then there's this kind of yoga, and then yoga goes hand in hand with Ayurveda, and so I need to study Ayurveda. And meditation and mantras and mudras, and you can like.
And that's how the rabbit hole goes.
Yes, absolutely.
So we actually met for the Thai body work certification, and it was virtual. That was my first time ever doing a virtual training. So that was different for me. But then you said, I'm moving to Atlanta. And I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know that was in the works of me, not that I even knew you, but that seemed like a sudden change. Was that planned?
Atlanta was not planned at all. So I'm living currently in Santa Monica College. My job is in Santa Monica, California at SMC, Santa Monica Community College. And we're remote. We're remote this year. We went remote in the spring, right? And we've already decided that we'll be remote for spring of 21. And so I decided, I was like, why am I staying here? I can work from anywhere. Like, this is my dream to work from anywhere. Abroad, really, but, you know, right now, not so much.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, I pay really, really expensive rent in LA. And I decided to hit the road. So my plan was to hit the road. And that I would spend like 3 months in a place, all in the United States, like New Orleans was on my list and Denver. And I would just go around the country. And I went to Cleveland. I was supposed to spend a few months in Cleveland, where I'm from. I ended up spending 1 month there. And that was my plan. And then I had the opportunity to purchase a condo here in Atlanta. And like, it just fell in my lap.
Yeah.
I bought it sight unseen. And people think I'm crazy, and I think this is where K.A.P and the kind of this energy and going with your feeling and your gut, your intuition just comes into play. Because people are like, how are you going to move to a city you've never lived in, buy something you've never seen, and like, aren't you crazy? Aren't you afraid? And I was like, no. And during a pandemic.
Oh yeah, that part.
And I'm like, no, I don't live in fear. I try my best not to live in fear. But like, what's the worst that could happen? So I moved to a city that I've never lived. I've done that before. I moved to Mexico City when I was 25 for a job, and I didn't know a soul. And it was an incredible experience.
You are brave. I don't know. My root chakra is not set up like that. I would need to know a lot about where I'm going, what's happening.
I knew nothing. And so, you know, I know people here in Atlanta. I have friends. But why not? And so I bought a place. I could never afford a place in LA. It's just too expensive. And so to be able to have an investment here, and I'll stay here as long as I can. And then when I have to go back to LA, I can rent out the place, or, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, to me, it's not a big deal. People are like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? I guess.
Yeah, I think I was, wow, I don't know if I would have the courage, but I would like to think so. And so now she's also teaching K.A.P in person.
Yes. At
the Fitness Collective, our lovely sponsor. And it's something that I'm super interested in. So I'm learning today, just as everyone else out here. So K.A.P, K-A-P. Tell us about K.A.P.
K.A.P stands for Kundalini Activation Process. And so how I came to K.A.P, I've been practicing K.A.P for a little over a year now. And I came to K.A.P through Reiki.
Okay.
So I was, received Reiki and then became a Reiki practitioner. That's something else I've studied. So I can also do Reiki. And I saw a Facebook ad for this thing called K.A.P. And I just take things. And it looked interesting. Yeah. And so I went to K.A.P class and I was blown away. So if you've ever done Reiki, which is energy work, after my first class of K.A.P, I was like, this is like 1,000 times stronger than Reiki.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't believe it. And so this was pre-pandemic. And so class was weekly, and I would go to class every week. And if I missed K.A.P class, I could feel it. And I'm not going to lie, K.A.P class is $50 for an in-person class, which can seem a little pricey. And I had that same thought when I was a student. And I'm like, I'm spending $50 a week. But the changes in my life were worth the $50. It were worth much more than the $50 a week. And to me, it became my therapy.
Yeah.
And you can spend a lot more money on therapy than, than $50.
Absolutely.
So Kundalini activation process, which was taught to me by my teacher, Venet Wong, who discovered that he had the ability to activate his Kundalini. And your Kundalini is your life force energy. It's a natural thing that's part of you. It's nothing I'm putting in you. We all have it in our root chakra area. It's just sitting there, waiting to be activated and brought to life. And so Venet discovered that he had the ability to activate his own Kundalini. Then he discovered he had the ability to activate other people's Kundalini. And then he discovered he had the ability to give that ability to other people. And so he trains facilitators to activate the Kundalini in other people. There are only 87 K.A.P facilitators in the world. He does very few trainings, which are on hold right now for COVID.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many in the United States. There are only 2 Black K.A.P facilitators in the world.
And
Myself
you are one.
being one. And I'm going to give a shout out to Bree, who is in New York. And we trained together this past March. So we were the first and just new. And I would love to get more people of color involved in K.A.P, and so that I can recommend them for training, because you do have to have a facilitator recommend you for training. It's not like yoga training or anything. Or you can just go sign up.
I'm interested. Let me sign up.
Yeah.
Click here.
And there are like 50 million different yoga teacher trainings. No, you have to have a recommendation from a K.A.P facilitator.
Okay.
So what happened after I went to K.A.P, or what is K.A.P? So if you maybe you've heard of Kundalini yoga.
Yes, I was going to just say that.
It is not Kundalini yoga. And no diss to people who do Kundalini yoga. It is not my jam. There's so much work. Have you ever taken a Kundalini yoga class?
I took one Kundalini class, and I did not know that you're expected to wear white or light colors, and then the teacher, wraps their head and all of the things. So I was a little bit like, well, I go to yoga like this, with purple pants and whatever color top.
Yes, and you can come to K.A.P like that.
Okay, good. I didn't know the rules.
There are no rules.
Okay.
Yes, in Kundalini yoga, there are a lot of rules. The colors, and you do a lot of kriyas and postures, and you have to put forth a lot of effort.
Yes.
To awaken your Kundalini. And a Kundalini yoga instructor will often tell you that it will take years to get there.
Yes.
With K.A.P, you don't do any of that. You can come dressed as you like in whatever comfortable clothing. And all you have to do is come and lie in Shavasana. Usually you start on a yoga mat listening to music that I play, the facilitator plays, as the facilitator transmits energy. So your Kundalini is in your root chakra. In a K.A.P class, we transmit an energy that just comes through our body that enters your body through your crown chakra.
Okay.
Going down to your root chakra, where it mingles with your Kundalini energy until it's going up and down your body, and it's activating your Kundalini. And that's all you have to do. There are no mudras, there are no mantras, there are no postures. You lie on your back and you surrender. The key word is to surrender, because the energy is safe. It always only gives you what you need, and you can always stop it. So if your mind is working too much and you're like, I don't like this, you can always stop it. You can always open your eyes and stop it. So you are always in control, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like you're in control.
I did watch a video on the website, and it just it looked like they were dancing, and then it was like this. So we're at the studio, and that's the phone. But and then it was like this. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's kind of like dancing in water, or like lying down, and then your chest, their chest was moving up and down. I wish that I could describe this in a different, more...
Yes. So, yeah, how to describe... That's why I say you have to experience it. But So the videos, I will say, people watch the videos and either they're intrigued or sometimes they get scared. And I will say, like, the kinesthetic movements are the easiest thing to show on the video. They're kind of sexy.
Okay.
Right, and so those don't always happen. They purposely make these videos with the people who move the most.
Okay.
Because that's the easiest thing to show what's happening. It would be a really boring video if I said, for an hour, you just lie on your back.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And you don't see anything.
You don't do anything.
Yeah, so, but kinesthetic movements can happen, but that's just one of the things that could possibly happen during a K.A.P session. So during K.A.P, I'm going to start with the more subtler things.
Okay.
So you might just lie on your back in Savasana for an hour, and at the end of the hour, you're like, well, that was relaxing. That's like the least that can happen. And that sometimes happens for people who are doing it for the first time, or people who are really in their mind and thinking about it so much that they can't just surrender.
Yes.
Right. So
I think that would be me. I would be like, so what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What am I going to feel? What am I going to do? What am I going to
is that
dancing?
tingle really it? Yeah. Am I good? Everyone, a lot of people come and go, want to move. I want to do that dancing that they see in the video. So they're thinking about that the whole time.
Okay.
And that impedes the energy.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
And so you just have to, and it's hard. I'm just saying you just have to, but you have to just let that go out of your mind and have no expectations.
Okay.
So you might just lie there, kind of feeling relaxed. You may feel energy pulsing through your body. And if anyone's done Reiki, you may know what that feels like when the Reiki teacher touches you or hovers over you, and you kind of feel a pulse of energy. So you might just feel pulses of energy going through your body or parts of your body. You may feel emotions. So people have emotional releases where, and that's all the energy just moving out of you. You may cry.
Yeah.
You might sob. I've spent an hour sobbing in a K.A.P class, and every class is different. And normally the emotions aren't connected to anything. It's not sobbing because my mother has passed away or someone is sick. It just needs to come out of your body. So you might sob, you might laugh hysterically, and you're like, what the hell am I laughing at? I don't know, but I can't stop laughing. And you might scream. And so any of those kind of emotional things could happen. You could feel a state of bliss, which is just a connection with the divine. You could go on third eye journeys. And so that's why sometimes you might just be lying on a mat and it seems like nothing's happening. And these are the things you can't record, right?
Yeah.
So, but some of the most beautiful experiences I've had has just been on my back, but my mind or my body, my energy body has gone somewhere else, different astral planes.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, visiting, all sorts of places. I've been in fields of beautiful flowers. In the stars, you may have just see colors or lights. One of my students was in a field of amethyst. She's just like, it was just amethysts everywhere. And you might be visited by spirit guides, if you have spirit guides, or ancestors. My mom, who is deceased, comes to visit me sometimes. And usually it's a quick, just like, shh. And it was like, hey, Ma.
Oh, wow. Does she talk? So we have actually talked about Reiki on this show and how our emotions and things can be held in our bodies and belief systems, and spontaneous releases can happen, and stretch therapy and certain yoga classes. But I mean, this sounds like another layer. Now we can also maybe if you're open to it, or if it's what's supposed to happen, you might be able to see your spirit guides or ancestors. But has anybody ever talked about actually being able to communicate with them?
I mean, and I call it communication, not in the sense as we're having this conversation like this. I would say yes, but communication in the sense that you may receive messages and some guidance. Yeah. Or just a feeling, like when I just feel love, kind of when my mom visits me. So to me, that's communication. Yes. And so I don't, like, if people are looking for a conversation where I'd be like, hey, Mom, can I ask you this question? And she answers, it's not that. Okay. I need, I mean, Mom or someone may give you some guidance to something you're thinking about, but not kind of like that direct. Okay. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So you could go on those third eye journeys. Again, it depends. And every session is different. I can't say that I had so many sessions and not one is the same. Mm-hmm. And so you can have that, but then you can have the thing that you see on the videos, which is the kinesthetic movements. And so that means your body just starts moving. And you're kind of like, the first time, or my first class, like my arm was doing like this. And here's where you have to surrender. Because I am going, wait a minute. I'm not moving my arm. Mm-hmm. Why is it moving?
Wow. And
so you can go with it and say, okay, I'm going to play with this and surrender to it. Or you can go, no, that's weird, and like shut it down. Mm-hmm. Mm. So if you allow it to go, you never know what will happen. It could be subtle as twitches. You just kind of twitching your body. It could be a yawn or a stretch. And so some people, especially if they stretch, they're like, oh, I was just stretching. I was like, but there was a reason why you were stretching. You were called to stretch. And it could be as grand as doing yoga postures. So like I say, you start in Savasana. I always say you do not have to stay there. Now, sometimes you feel like you're just weighted down to the ground and you couldn't move if you wanted to move. But if you're called to get up, so you might sit up.
Okay.
You might do yoga postures, and yoga postures that you never thought you could do. You're like, wait, I can never do wheel in yoga class. But for somehow in K.A.P, I was in wheel for 30 minutes. And we've had that happen. I had a student, and she did wheel for so long, and she was on the very tips of her fingers and the tips of her toes, like she was trying to levitate off the ground. And it was a virtual class, and I'm just watching him like, oh my God, she's going to rise. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's
in a cool way, though.
Crazy, in a cool way. And then you might stand up and start dancing or twirling. And so people have those physical reactions. And one of the saddest things to me is like people at the end of a class, whether it's in person or virtual, we share what happened during the session. And sometimes students will say, well, I felt like dancing, but I didn't know if I could, or I didn't get up.
Yeah.
Like, always go.
Yeah, go with it.
Go with it, right? And that is the energy telling you that. So you should never leave a class saying, well, I felt like doing that, but I wasn't sure. You never have to stay on your back. And so we get students like that. Well, I thought I had to stay on my back. No, that's how we start. You never, ever have to stay on your back. And it could be simply as just turning over to a side because you're like, oh, my back hurt, and turn over.
Yeah, but it's honoring even that.
Yes.
Any movement. Okay.
So you can have the physical movement. Something we don't talk about a lot is orgasmic experiences. So we've had men get erections in class, and women can hide it a little better. But women, sharing vocally orgasmic experiences, and it's sexual, but it's not.
It's not, right?
Yeah.
It's energetic.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think that that did come up. That question came up. Is it like Tantra? And there's a difference, though, because Tantra, if I am correct, Tantra is supposed to be that untouchable but sensual, sexual energy. But with K.A.P, it's just that's the release that needs to happen.
Right. Yes, it is. Now, and I mean, I was in a K.A.P session as a student. It was an immersion weekend with our teacher, Venet. And this one woman for the hour session, she was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you're sitting there going like, I want some of that. But
right. I don't know, I would either be envious or like trying to figure out what is wrong with me? Like, why can I? No, just kidding.
Yeah,
but you know, anything.
No, so that's an interesting thing you bring up because there's very much a difference between virtual and in person.
Okay.
So virtual, all of our sounds on mute.
Oh,
which then I missed the vocalization. So I don't know if I really was clear about vocalization. Like people might scream and are making noises, and it's beautiful to hear, but virtually we don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
And so when you're in person classes, you do get to hear the vocalizations, and sometimes that can be distracting, and you're like, I wish I was having that person's experience. But sometimes that it spreads, and you'll have a class, like one person starts laughing hysterically, and then like it just spreads to everyone else. So I love doing virtual classes. I have bias for in person, and I was trained right before COVID, and I mean literally right before it shut down. And so I did not have the chance to do in-person classes until September. Like just recently. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I really miss the community energy. There's communal energy virtually. Absolutely. And virtually I have students who come from all over the world. I have students from Singapore and Brazil and Sweden. And it works. It works. So if you can only come virtually, come virtually. But so there's that community energy virtually, but in a class, there's just something.
It's different.
Different. And so, yeah, being able to hear the vocalizations of others is much more shared experience.
That sounds so interesting.
Yes.
So with the K.A.P in person, you're playing music. Should we expect instruction, or is it just kind of like a guided meditation?
Yeah, for both virtual and in person, what happens is classes are 2 hours long, or the whole session's 2 hours long. The first half an hour or so is setup, where you do receive instructions, and where I will say, this is what you may expect, just kind of like I just did in this video. But if it's a class, especially virtually, we have a lot of regulars, and so like if there are a lot of regular people, we'll kind of skip that part. Like, you know what to expect. So there's the setup, and then the session's actually an hour.
Okay.
So the playlist is an hour, maybe a little over. And the music is intentional. One, it's distracting. It helps you get out of your head.
Yes.
But there is an arc, right? It starts off and gets to this arc where it'll be a lot of high beat, high energy music, and goes back down.
Okay.
And it is meant to take you through different energies and emotions during the hour. And then after the hour is over, then there's like another half an hour for sharing. And sharing is always optional. And a lot of people are just at a loss for words at the end.
Right.
They're like, like I have a lot to say, but I can't say it at the moment. And so that's pretty much the 2 hour class structure, and why it's 2 hours. And so
I love that. I can't wait to take it. I really wanted to do your virtual class, but it's like I'm teaching or there's something, whatever. So as soon as
they're hard to get
in
to.
person.
But let's talk about what happens after, because after is more important, right? Okay. Like yoga, like any practice, it's how it goes into your life. Oh, right? Yes. Yoga is really the continuation off the mat. K.A.P is the continuation off of the mat. So what happens after a K.A.P session? And we do recommend weekly practice, like we would in yoga, daily practice. So after, people report, my life has changed. I will just say my life has absolutely changed because of K.A.P. And I have lots of reports. So some kind of basic things, people report that they can't eat crappy food anymore.
Oh, awesome.
That, it really changes their diet. And I don't want this to turn off anybody who's like, but I love my crappy diet. Right? Because you never have to honor it.
Yes. You always have a choice. We've talked about free will on this podcast many times.
Yes,
you can say no.
Will. Yeah, so
or
your body, you might eat something and your body's like, I really don't like that. And you can decide that I'm going to honor that, or I'm going to go back to eating, even though my body is telling me not to. And so many people go vegetarian, raw vegetarian. Our teacher is a raw vegetarian. There was a point in the summer that like all I ate was watermelon. Like that's all I wanted to eat. I've gotten over that, but like that's all my body would allow me to eat. Okay. So dietary changes, a sense of calmness, just walking through the world and just like, oh, I can brush things off, relieving stress and more energy. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I can no longer. And it's the easiest thing for me. Like it's not. And I was a wineaholic. I mean, I'm not gonna like. And I'm thankful. So I stopped drinking alcohol in January before COVID, and I am seriously thankful for that, because I would have truly been an alcoholic during COVID.
Yes.
And when I was locked in, I would have a bottle or two of wine a day. Like that was my alcohol of choice. K.A.P doesn't allow me to put alcohol in my body. I don't crave it. I don't miss it at all. It's not even a thought to me anymore. And so again, you may not be wanting to give up alcohol. You don't have to. And, it was something I have been wanting to cut back on.
Yeah.
And that's what the energy told me. Yeah, you don't need it anymore.
You know what? I'm noticing with a lot of energetic practices that happens. So with Ashley with Reiki, she's like, I want to do some kind of mixologist event, but is it going to be weird? There's mocktails? And I'm like, no, it's not. I would be there.
I would be there, absolutely. And I love that more and more restaurants and bars are adding mocktails instead of just like, here's some juice.
Yes.
And you can find a lot more non-alcoholic mixers or the fake non-alcoholic liquor.
Yes.
I love non-alcoholic beer because I still love the taste of beer. I just don't want the alcohol. So I drink non-alcoholic beer all the time. Yeah, so I would love a mocktail mixology class. I think it's growing. It's really growing that people are drinking less. So even people who still drink, just drinking less. And people who are getting into health. I mean, I'm not bashing anybody who drinks, but when you start learning of how toxic alcohol is for your body, you really go, why am I drinking?
Right. Well, also, what about when it's alcohol as a coping mechanism?
Yes.
So as you start to find these healing modalities and really tap into health and wellness, you're like, I don't need that to cope.
Yes, absolutely.
I can actually communicate, or I can actually feel energy, or I can actually move energy, or I can go to K.A.P.
Yes, I can do other things. So yes, as a coping mechanism. So that may happen. People leave toxic relationships, jobs, just being able to move on in life.
Yeah.
And not having fear. Right? I'm moving to Atlanta. Now I'm going to say that was my natural personality. I'm not going to lie. Right? Like I said, I moved to Mexico City when I was 25. But it's just being able to make those leaps. People report and saying, I no longer allow this in my life.
Yeah.
And so it has changed a lot of people's lives. And I'm hoping to introduce it to more people. I really, really want to introduce it to people of color, to Black people. We need so much trauma. Oh, I didn't mention trauma. Oh, it gets deep into those layers.
We got layers.
Trauma, generations trauma.
Yes.
Like, yes, this is a way. Again, back to Kundalini Yoga, where they were like, it could take you years. I'm like, no, you don't need years. It gets deep. And I'm going to say, because it gets deep, it doesn't mean K.A.P is always joyful. K.A.P can bring up a lot. And you have to be willing to work through it. Right? You can't heal what you're not willing to recognize and address.
Right.
So if you're ready to heal,
that makes sense.
It will come up for you. So there may be times where you're like, well, that wasn't so happy. Or there may be periods. My friend came to an in-person K.A.P class in Cleveland. And she texted me a couple days later. She's like, I've been crying for days. Is this normal? I'm like, yes, and that's wonderful.
Oh my gosh, my response would have been, no, this is not wonderful.
Absolutely normal. It is wonderful. It is. We have to normalize crying.
Yes.
We really do, because crying is a release of energy, and we bottle it up, right? How many times do we tell, stop crying? And we comfort people and tell them to stop crying. Cry.
Yeah, let it out.
Let it out, because if you don't let it out, you're just bottling up and you're harming yourself. Yep. So I was like, yeah, beautiful, absolutely normal. Let it all out. It's calling you to release something, and I know what's going on in her life. I'm like, you got a lot to release, right? And so let it all out instead of keeping it bottled up. So you don't have to drink the alcohol to cope with what you stuffed down.
Exactly. But even if it's not always happy, so not everything is, right? There's still something that we can learn from that. And how was she feeling later? After?
Oh yeah, she's a K.A.P devotee now. So.
Yeah, see? Something positive came from those 3 days of crying.
She comes to my K.A.P session every week. I'm doing an in-person session in Cleveland in November, I forget the date, November 20th. She's already signed up for that. So yes, it went right. She cried for days, but she also got a lot out of it. and she understood that that was just part of the process.
Yeah.
So that can happen. It brings couples closer together. So we have some facilitators who trained as couples, and they were kind of annoying. And we had 3 couples in our training in Mexico, and because each day we would come back in the morning and report what happened, what life was like.
Yeah.
And so, I went through there. I was in Mexico. Our training was 5 days. It felt like my head was split open because I was just receiving so much. And here's not the joy thing. It was a massive headache. And I could just feel this crack. But that was the energy, my brain rewiring. But the couples, so it's not Tantra, but couples who K.A.P together report better relationships and better sex.
Oh, awesome.
Sexual experiences, just because of the connectedness and the energy and being able to communicate. And so that's what good sex is. Good sex is not just about the positions and you're doing that, but being connected to each other. It's
intimate. It's that intimate connection. Everybody wants it to be something so glamorous, like what you see on TV, it's hot and heavy. No, but what do you need? You never know what you need until you're paying attention to it. Until you actually feel the energy, move the energy, live the energy, love the energy. All of that.
That is correct. So the intimacy of it. So couples come to K.A.P together, and the couple K.A.P facilitators report their such stronger relationships because I think the thing with K.A.P is you can experience high highs and low lows, but you know how to deal with them, and you don't sit in those places.
Oh, nice.
And so in their relationships, because there's always things in relationships that you need to communicate about, they're able to communicate about their needs more, and so that brings them together more. So it's just beautiful. So just lots and lots of life.
I love that.
Life changes.
So we're gonna drop her links and all the classes that she's doing virtually and in person.
Yes.
You have an in-person workshop in Cleveland, and then there's another one here in Atlanta, right?
Yes, at the Kemetic. On Ralph Abernathy.
Ooh, yes. Awesome. I love them. Shout out to Kia and Master Yasir Hotep. I trained with them for Kemetic yoga.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I love them. I love their space. It's going to be awesome. So if you can't make it to the Fitness Collective and you're in Atlanta, certainly you must go to Yoga Skills Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay. We'll put the link.
All the information up. You can find me mostly on Eventbrite. So most of the K.A.P classes. And I'm going to give a shout out to all the K.A.P facilitators because we are in a virtual world. There are K.A.P classes that you can attend all over the world. So I have virtual K.A.P class Tuesday nights, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, and Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Those are my virtual classes. But there are virtual classes all the time. If you can't make those 2 classes, I am not greedy. I want to share the K.A.P love. And so if you find a K.A.P class time that fits better for you, I recommend you go and just try K.A.P. In person here at the Fitness Collective, Thursdays, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. I should say that. And yes, and then my in-person at the Kemetic Yoga. I'm blowing dates. It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday in November.
Right? Sunday, the 15th, Sunday, November 15th, from 6 to 8 p.m. And in person, right, we're doing all the COVID cleaning restrictions. That's why class size is very limited. So you want to make sure you sign up early so that you get your space. Masks, you must wear masks to enter, but you can leave them on or take them off during the class. I leave my mask on, just so you know. And you asked me, I didn't answer your question. There's no instructions during the hour of music. So I don't talk during the hour, but I do come around and touch people if they've given me permission to touch them.
Yes.
Otherwise, we do it at a distance. And I can be found on Instagram at Green Goddess Wellbeing, as well on Facebook as Green Goddess Wellbeing. So follow me, shout out, and all the information about classes and special workshops will be on my Instagram.
Yes, and it'll be at the bottom of this as well, the description. So people can just go boop Kimberly, finding you and
Yes.
taking class with
Yay. And always reach out, greengoddesswellbeing at Gmail. If you have questions, I also do private sessions. So I haven't even talked about private. Oh my God. Private classes are phenomenal, but they're a tease. Imagine a whole hour spent working on you or you and a significant other. I do couples or small groups. And so private sessions I can do virtually, or if you're in Atlanta, I can do in-person private sessions as well. And we can discuss all the details about that. So just send me a message. I really recommend it for couples.
I can tell. I see the energy there. I'm like, maybe. So I am so glad that you were able to come by.
Thank you for having me.
And now that I know a little bit more about K.A.P, other than what I went to see on the website, because I do my research, right? But I'm open to all things, but I was like, I don't know. This looks like it would be so intense, but also it looks like it would be the greatest intense feeling. So I'm ready. I want to try it. Even now that I know I could do privates, I might start there too. We'll see.
Yes.
I don't know.
So yeah,
thank you.
Just try. And it doesn't hurt to try. That's always my thing. What did you lose? You spent an hour. You relaxed. The worst that can happen is that you relaxed.
Yep.
So give it a try.
Just try.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you.
See you next time. So what an incredible, I don't know, experience it sounds like K.A.P would be. The Kundalini activation process is so much more than yoga, right? It actually isn't yoga, as Kimberly said. It isn't even yoga, but it is. Even if you've taken a Kundalini yoga class and you've had that sort of awakening happen within your body, to know the levels to which you could go is kind of supernatural and amazing. I cannot wait still to take the class, and I'm going to be there with bells on so that I can report back and tell all of you how amazing K.A.P felt. But can you imagine just having a release that happens spontaneously with the help of a facilitator, and all you have to do is let it process? That sounds pretty cool. And I'm a movement person. So if we're moving and my body's able to do whatever it wants to do, I'm technically in my happy place. That can be scary for other people, though. It can be weird to have an out-of-body experience, for lack of a better term. But what if we were open to that? What if we were allowing ourselves to think beyond the here and now and the realm of what we can see, and start to allow ourselves to think outside the box, outside the galaxy, outside the 3D matrix? So many people are now talking about ascension and processing traumas and trauma-informed yoga, and so many other things. And it has really started to feel like buzzwords, or like it's cool right now. But what I can say is that I have had several experiences that have truly changed me, that made me want to even do this show. Even though I thought at one point, who the heck wants to hear what I have to say? The world doesn't need another podcast. The world doesn't need another show. I can talk myself out of anything, as I'm sure you can too. But my passion for healing and my commitment to healing myself and the generational traumas that have lied through both of my family lines is what pushed me to say, no, I want to share. I want to share all that I can. I want to learn all that I can. I want to do all that I can. There is a saying in yoga, and I don't know the exact Sanskrit, and I've probably said this before, but it really resonates with me. And that is, may all beings be happy and free. May all beings know peace in this lifetime. And may we do all that we can to help facilitate that process. I sincerely feel that. I sincerely want that. It would be a dream come true for people to be open and honest and vulnerable without the fear of backlash or ridicule or judgment. There is so much happening in the world, and so many people are hurting, and it feels like we're all looking for some answers or seeking some guidance. I am very honored to speak with the people that come and take their time to do the show with me and talk about their journeys, even if it's just one little part, because that's what they're talking about that day. I appreciate them all, and I don't take their time for granted. The bigger picture is what's important. If this helps one person or 1,000,000 people, I'm happy, because I'm sharing not only what I have come into contact with that has been helpful, but also, with these practitioners and professionals, how they became to even want to specialize in these modalities. Because we're not monolithic. That I know to be true. We are multifaceted. And when I say we, I mean all people, first of all. But zooming in on my community, on the Black community, we are not monolithic. We are so creative. We are multitaskers. We are the spectrum of creation. We just need to remember that. So if you have something you want to share, if you have a story that you just would love to get out there, send it to us. Send it to me. It can be completely anonymous, but you never know who it may help. You never know who may be going through the same exact thing and have no idea what to do about it. And they come across your story and they hear a tool that helped you. And then they try and it helps them. It's the ripple effect. That's a pretty awesome feeling. And we need more of that as people, especially right now when we're losing our humanity component, our compassion, our common decency, basic manners. The phrase hurt people is real. But what if hurt people found healing and helped to heal people? That's an option. We have options. I'm grateful for Kimberly coming on. I'm grateful to know that she is one of only 2 African American K.A.P facilitators in the world. That says something. It says something about her, and it says something about what we might be missing. So maybe we open our mind just a little. And I can honestly say this one is a little like right outside of my own comfort zone. But I'm willing to try. Because I think, in my opinion, the worst that could happen is that it helps. And that's not the worst for me. So we'll see you soon in K.A.P. Even if it's not through the Fitness Collective, join Kimberly online. She has several options, and we will post her links. See you soon. Thanks for joining us this week on Love Healing, the podcast, brought to you by True Align Holistic Life and me, Tiffany B. Please visit our website at www.truealignlife.com and follow us on Instagram at True Align Life. A shout out to our sponsor, the Fitness Collective in Atlanta, which you can also follow on Instagram at fitnesscollective_ATL. As always, we appreciate if you hit subscribe to the show on YouTube or your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any new episodes. Feel free to leave us a review if you feel so compelled, and let us know what content you want to see next. What do you want to learn about, and what's helping you? You can send us an anonymous note too. Let us know how you're sharing love with those around you and even for yourself. Until then, I look forward to our vibration elevation again next week. Thanks. Bye.